Hey, it's Mike over at fishyourassoff.com, and today what we're going to be talking about is the pros and cons of single hooks versus treble hooks on your lures, especially your topwater lures. Well, not your topwater lures, basically any lure, but the bigger lures as far as catching fish and killing fish accidentally. We're going to talk about all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and look at it. All right, pros and cons, single hooks versus treble hooks on lures. Well, let's go through the pros of the single first of all. I'll tell you this for a fact, you don't hook yourself as much when you have a single hook versus a treble hook. You certainly don't kill as many fish either. I always feel so bad, you're out there fishing for trout or something on top water, and you got that little 12-inch trout that gets it down in their gullet, and by the time you get it out of there, the thing's half dead. It floats off, down current, and that, there's a lot less mortality for fish if you're using single hooks versus treble hooks. And another thing that I think is great about them is they don't snag as much stuff when you're fishing them. So, say you're walking the dog or something in the morning and there's a lot of seaweed, just whatever it is, floating on top of the water, you get a lot more action on your lure because you have a lot less tendency for it to get snagged on anything, that's going to be out there in the water. All right, so let's go over the cons. Well, that's just a real good pro with this, but when it says don't harm the fish as much, well, that's because there's less hooks in there to get out of the fish. So obviously if it's got two treble hooks on it, that's 6 hooks versus 2 hooks. So you have 3 times the amount of hooks that might catch a fish. But I have found that my hooks that have single hooks versus treble hooks, let's say if I had treble hooks on it and I got 10, and I had 10 hits, topwater hits, you probably catch, 7 or 8 of those fish on a normal one. Well, with a single, you catch maybe 5 or 6 of those. So sure, you might miss a couple more fish out of 10 hits, but you're not going to kill them if they swallow it down there when they're super aggressive and they get it all the way down their gullet, a snook or a red or trout, whatever it is. Once they get it past that little sphincter part of their throat where it opens up, the guy's pretty much dead if it gets down there if it's a treble hook, whereas a single hook you can get it out. So that's, I guess, the main con with singles is just that one, just having 6 hooks versus 2 hooks. You have that, you're 3 times more likely to get a hook in the fish, I guess, is the rationale behind that one. Treble hooks. Well, one of the big pros is basically all inshore lures come with treble hooks. So they're already on there, and I'm cheap, so I don't want to switch them out until they get rusted out. So that's one of the pros. The offshore guys figured this stuff out years and years ago. They almost all use just single hooks out there. Gives the lure a lot better action in the water. And as long as you have that rear hook on there, that's really the one that most of them get hooked on anyways. So, you look at the offshore guys, a lot of them, actually most of them, don't use treble hooks at all. And, another pro, just like we talked about over here, well, the rationale is 6 hooks versus, or gives you that much more opportunity versus 2 hooks to catch a fish. But, I don't think it's a direct 3-to-1 correlation, where you're 3 times as much because, I don't miss too many fish on single hooks on my, on my topwater especially. But I'm going to give a commercial here because here's the ones that I use when I replace them. And again, I use the trebles at first, but then once they get rusty, I replace them with singles. And here's the owner brand. It's a single replacement hook. Here's the numbers. It's 4102. And I use the 3/0 and a 2/0 because I'm mostly fishing inshore with, smaller type, mullet type, hooks or or lures, I should say. So these are the two that suit me, the 3/0 and the 2/0. But now what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to give you a before and after. I have some rusty hooks in here in the other room, or rusty hooks on lures, because the lures stay good. You know, they're plastic, they're not going to rust. So you might as well just replace the hooks on them. So I'm going to go ahead and show you before and after on what they look like before, and just how easy it is to change them out. You don't need much. Alright, so here's the before picture, what we're doing here, and you don't need much. You know, these split rings are cheap. I think 100 of those were like $3 or $4 for the split ring, so plenty of those you can do. Here's some of my, my favorite top waters. Got some mirror lures, some Zara spooks here, and the hooks are all rusty on them. So I'm going to swap out these rusty hooks for these. So, the 2/0 is going to go on the smaller one right here. And I have the 3/0 right here that's going to go on the bigger ones. I like to have it a little bit bigger when I'm just doing a single hook. So even though the the spacing on this might be a 2/0 that would work best, I go a little bit bigger when I'm going to replace them with a single hook. Yeah, here's my pile of my to-do list for rusty hooks I got to change out. But yeah, all you need the pliers with the little split ring thing at the end. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just that little, or just spend the money and get split ring pliers, but that works just fine. And all you're going to do is you get rid of these and you're going to add the other ones. So here's the before, and I'll show you the after in a second. So here's what you end up with. Now all these old rusty hooks, here's the rusty hook pile. All of these new lures right here have brand new single hooks on them. And you got to figure, you basically, to buy these extra hooks here, it's usually about $8 or $9, and you get about 6 of them in a pack. And so you do that math, let's say, so what is that, $2.50 or something, and then you have a whole new lure again, because these lures are like $10 when you buy them. So you definitely should replace your hooks either way, but it's just as easy to replace them with a single as it is, these old treble hooks. So I don't know, that's what I do anyways. So eventually you're almost fishing with completely single, replacement hooks. But to me, it makes a lot of sense. I'm kind of cheap, so. But there you have it. There's the after. You saw the before. That's it. So that's it for today's lesson. You can see more of this information on our website. It's www.fishyourassoff.com. We have a how-to section, a where-to section, fishing tips, techniques. We got everything you want if you want to know about fishing on that website. But this is it for today. This was just, explaining the difference between treble hooks and single hooks, how to put them on there, and pros and cons of each. So I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something, and we'll see you next time. All right. Bye-bye.